Have you ever been so utterly drained, so completely bled dry, emotionally, financially, spiritually, that you just snapped? That's exactly what happened to me after over a decade with the woman I married. And it led me down a path where I had to choose the extreme. Honestly, the day I married my wife, something in my gut screamed at me not to do it. Every fiber of my being was screaming run. But she was relentless. She pressured me, chipped away at my resolve, until I finally just gave in. The moment that ink was dry on our marriage license, everything went south. Everything. Just a few months in, she went behind my back, took out most of my savings. A deposit on a fancy apartment I didn't even want. When I found out, I was furious, naturally. But she just looked at me, deadpan, and said I was her provider and needed to accept that her word goes over mine. That was the dynamic. Her word over mine. I remember once, I tried to surprise her with a Michael Kors handbag. Thought it would be a nice gesture. Her reaction? She actually complained that the color didn't match her phone case. It was never about me or us. I'm a doctor. I make good money. Yet, after years, I had less than $2,000 in savings. My life savings. We had no intimacy. We didn't laugh. We didn't talk about anything but money. Before we married, she said she wanted kids, then suddenly changed her mind. Our home wasn't a home. It was a cold, empty house. No warmth, no joy. I hated it. I hated her. I finally hit my breaking point. I secretly rented a small apartment across town, bought some IKEA furniture, and traded the leased Mercedes she insisted on for a used Prius. I was telling her tomorrow. I knew she'd cry, demand therapy, but I was done. This was never right, and I was only sorry it took me so long to finally realize it. The next morning, I paced my new kitchen, rehearsing the words over and over. When she finally came down, I felt this strange, almost unsettling calm. Not panic, not even apprehension. Just calm. I told her I needed to talk. She just grunted, not even looking up from the coffee machine. So, I just said it. I'm leaving. I want a divorce. I told her we hadn't been happy in a long time, that I felt she didn't care about me or my emotional needs. Instantly, the gaslighting began. The tears. You never get me flowers anymore. You don't support me. You don't care if I'm happy. I reminded her I suggested therapy over a year ago, and she'd made excuse after excuse not to go. I brought up all the times she'd completely ignored our budget, how she dismissed me when I tried to express my feelings. Her crying escalated, turning into begging. She promised to change, to go to therapy. It went exactly as I'd imagined, and I felt absolutely nothing. Whatever I once felt for her was dead. Gone. She could have been a stranger sobbing about her marriage for all the connection I felt. Eventually, I just got up and walked out. She started blowing up my phone with calls and texts, everything from angry accusations to desperate begging to outright threats. Then her mother called. And even mine. I spoke briefly to my mom, explaining calmly that my wife was sucking me dry, financially and emotionally. My mom, surprisingly, was incredibly supportive. I spent that night in my new apartment, unrolled a mattress in a box, went to Walmart for sheets, ate Thai takeout at the counter, watching Netflix on my laptop. Divorce papers were being served the next day. I kept waiting for the sadness to set in, for the guilt, but it never did. It felt like 1,000 pounds had been lifted off my shoulders. Suddenly, my future felt full of possibilities. I was going to travel, try new restaurants, find a job that actually made me happy, not just rich. And yes, much to the internet's chagrin, I was going to ask out that barista who kept flirting with me. She works at her family's cafe, and I knew the difference between customer service and a genuine connection. I cracked open a beer and took a walk around my new neighborhood. Cheers to freedom. The next morning, I woke up in my new apartment, and it felt like I could finally breathe. The sun was shining. No familiar dread. I threw on jeans and a t-shirt and headed to the little cafe around the corner. The one with the wooden tables. I thought I'd grab breakfast, maybe see if Amy, the barista, was working. The smell of fresh coffee hit me, warm and comforting. Amy smiled at me, just like she always did. I ordered my muffin and coffee, found a table. A few minutes later, I heard it. A familiar, furious voice. I turned around. There she was. Amanda, my wife. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying all night. Her hair a mess. People in the cafe were staring. My heart sank. I knew this was going to be bad. There you are, she shrieked, marching right up to my table. I've been looking for you everywhere. Amanda, what are you doing here? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Amy glanced over, her smile fading. What am I doing here? She yelled. I should be asking you that. You left me, and now you're just out here getting coffee like nothing happened. People were definitely staring now. I felt embarrassed, angry. Not here. Not in front of everyone, especially not Amy. Amanda, I'm just getting a coffee, I said, trying to keep my voice low. Can we talk about this later? No, we can't talk about this later, she screamed, her voice getting even louder. You're my husband. You're supposed to be at home with me, not here flirting with some barista like a creep. I glanced at Amy. She looked deeply uncomfortable. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. Amanda, stop, I said, still trying to keep my calm. I'm not doing this right now. Oh, you're not doing this right now, she mocked, crossing her arms. Well, too bad, because I'm doing this right now. You owe me an explanation, and you're going to give it to me. I looked around. Everyone was watching. Their eyes crawled on my skin. I just wanted to get out. I'm not going back with you, I said firmly. I'm done. Her face twisted in a mask of anger. You think you're done? You don't get to just leave me like this. She reached out, grabbed my arm, trying to pull me towards the door. You're coming home, and we're going to fix this. I pulled my arm away. No, I'm not, I said, my voice steady. It's over, Amanda. I'm not coming back. She looked like she was about to explode. You're going to regret this, she hissed. You're nothing without me. You hear me? Nothing. I didn't say anything. I just turned and walked out of the cafe, my coffee and muffin forgotten. I heard her footsteps behind me. I knew she wasn't going to give up. I made it to my car. She was right there. Get in your car and go home, I said, turning to face her. You're making a scene? I don't care, she screamed. You're my husband. You're supposed to be with me. I'm not your anything anymore, I said, opening my car door. Just go. I got in, started the engine. She was still standing there, face twisted with anger and hurt. I backed out, but in my rearview mirror, I saw her getting into her car, too. I took a deep breath. I couldn't go back to my new apartment if she was following me. I needed to lose her. I drove through side streets, my heart pounding, hands sweaty on the wheel. Turn after turn, trying to put distance between us. A sharp left, speeding up, hoping she wouldn't keep up. After a few minutes, her car was gone. I took a few more turns just to be safe and finally made it back to my place. My hands were shaking as I parked and hurried inside, locking the door. I stood there, catching my breath. Drained. This was only the beginning, I knew that. But I also knew I couldn't go back. Not now. Not ever. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel sad. Just free. I hoped she would give up. I was wrong. It didn't take long for her to figure out where I lived. Maybe she followed me. Maybe she asked around. Either way, she found my address. The first sign was when I came home from work and saw a pile of mail on my doorstep, all addressed to Amanda McCoy. She had forwarded her mail to my new place. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I called her. Oh, I just thought it would be easier for you to pay my bills if they were delivered straight to you, she said, dripping with sarcasm. I hung up, blocked her number. I threw the mail away, but it kept coming. She was making it clear she knew where I lived. Then one night, I came home and found her sitting on the steps outside my building. I tried to ignore her, walk past, but she stood up, blocking my way. You think you can just leave me? She said, her voice low and cold. You think you can just move on like I don't exist? I'm not doing this, Amanda. Go home, I said, trying to stay calm. This is my home, she snapped. I'm your wife. You don't get to run away from me. I pushed past her, and she started screaming, calling me every name in the book. Neighbors peeked out their windows. She was making a scene again. I went inside and locked the door, my hands shaking. She pounded on the door for what felt like hours, shouting that I owed her, that I had ruined her life. I called the police. By the time they arrived, she was gone. They told me to get a restraining order, but I hesitated. I just hoped she would calm down. When the divorce proceedings started, things got even worse. She was vile. I saw a side of her I didn't think was possible. We'd agreed to mediation, but every meeting turned into a shouting match. She'd show up late, disheveled, angry, interrupting me, calling me names. Abusive.
Cheating.
Every horrible thing you could imagine. At one particularly nasty meeting, she leaned over the table, loud enough for everyone to hear. I've been thinking a lot about that vacation we took to Mexico. Do you remember that night when you got drunk and hit me? I was stunned. I had never laid a hand on her. What the hell are you talking about, Amanda? My voice shook. Oh, you don't remember? How convenient. She turned to the mediator, smiled sweetly. He has a history of violence. I'm just saying, I don't feel safe. The mediator looked uncomfortable. I felt like I was in a nightmare. She was lying, outright lying, and there was nothing I could do to prove otherwise. I knew then. She was going to drag this out, make it as painful as possible. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about control. She couldn't stand that I had taken any of it back. The worst part was when she started showing up at my job. I work at a hospital. She would come in, pretending to be a patient, making a scene in the waiting room until security had to escort her out. She called my boss, telling him I was mentally unstable, that I had been abusing drugs, that I was a danger to my patients. None of it was true, but it was humiliating, and I could tell people were starting to talk. My boss called me in, concerned. He was kind, but he said I needed to get things under control. I knew he was right. The final straw came after the divorce was finalized. I thought things would calm down. I was wrong again. One night, I came home late and found her car parked outside my building, just sitting there, staring up at my window. I tried to ignore it, went inside, shut the blinds, but it kept happening. Every night, she would just be there, watching. Then one night, I came home, and she wasn't in her car. I felt this weird sense of relief. Maybe she had finally given up. But when I opened my door, I found her sitting on my couch. I froze. I had no idea how she got in. My heart pounded in my chest. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. She stood up, a slow, eerie smile spreading across her face. "I still have a key, remember? I had forgotten to change the locks." Stupid. I backed up towards the door, ready to call the police. "Get out," I said, trying to sound firm. She just laughed. "Oh, come on, you don't mean that. We're meant to be together, you know that. You can't just run away from me." "I'm serious, Amanda. Get out, or I'm calling the cops." She shrugged, then walked past me, her shoulder brushing mine. "Fine, I'll go. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot." I watched her leave, my hands shaking. I called the locksmith that night and changed the locks. The very next morning, I went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't live my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for her to show up and ruin everything again. The process was long, draining. I had to document everything, every phone call, every visit, every time she showed up at my job. When we finally went to court, she sat there, acting like the victim, crying, saying she just wanted to work things out. But the judge saw through it. The order was granted. She was barred from coming near me, my home, or my work. I thought that would be the end of it. But even now, I still see her car sometimes, parked down the street from my building, or outside my office. She's careful not to get too close, not to break the restraining order. But I know she's still watching, waiting. It's a constant, nagging presence in the back of my mind, and I hate it. I hate that she still has this hold on me, even after everything. But I'm trying to move on. I've started going out again, seeing friends, trying to rebuild my life. It's not easy, and some days, it feels like I'm just going through the motions. But I'm free, and that's something. I just have to keep reminding myself of that. I'm free. Have you ever faced someone so relentlessly vindictive after a breakup? What did you do to protect yourself? I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts and advice in the comments below.